Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Spoked Wheel YouTube channel. Today we're back with episode 2 of the Andy Schleck Pro Cyclist Mode career playthrough. If you missed episode 1, you can check that out on my channel. We set up the career, picked a team, things like that, which means we're in for a very special episode today because we're going to start racing for the first time. Before I got into that, there's just a few things I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention in the first video. First off, I took the height and weight for Andy Schleck from Pro Cycling Stats. So if you were wondering how I decided on that, that's how I came up with that. Pro Cycling Stats is just a great website overall, I would say. Very helpful for looking at past results and information about riders, so I highly recommend that. Then secondly, I want to take a look at the potentials that we currently have to kind of discuss what I'm thinking for improving our version of Andy Schleck as the career goes on. So mountain at 85, obviously that's the highest it can be. That's good. I'm happy with that. Hills between 80 and 84 is also pretty good. I was thinking that probably a hills rating of somewhere in the low 80s, 80 or 81 would be pretty realistic. Time trial right now is between 65 and 69. So like I said in the first video, I'm thinking that at some point in the first couple of upgrades that I unlock, I'm gonna upgrade the potential for stage racing, because I think probably an accurate time trial rating for Andy Schleck would be somewhere between maybe 70 and 73, in the low 70s. Obviously he wasn't the greatest time trialist, but something that he still, as a GC contender, put a lot of hard work into improving. So I think he was better than this potential rating. Prologue, not really that important. I think where it is right now is fine. Cobblestones, also not that important. Same thing with sprint. The acceleration, as a climber, he had a pretty good acceleration. That's fine, 82 to 85. Downhill, I'm not gonna upgrade the climbing to improve that. Also, I think, as much as I loved Andy Schleck, I think it's fair to say that his descending was one of his weak points, so that's probably, to be honest, a little generous, but that's okay, we'll take it. Barrador, doesn't really matter if I'm controlling the rider. Stamina, 71 to 75, that would be great if I could find a way to bump that up. I'm not sure if increasing stage racing potential will do that. If not, I think I might leave it as it is, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it a bit later on. And then resistance and recovery, obviously if I do increase the stage racing potential, the recovery will increase a little bit. It's already at a pretty good level, but a little bit more wouldn't help if we want to win Grand Tours in this game, which we do. And then the other thing is that, doing a little bit of research again on procyclingstats.com, I believe I've determined that Andy Schleck's first ever professional race in 2004, he was riding for Team CSC, was the Circuit des Ardennes International, which just so happens that is a race in this game. It's not currently in our schedule, but if we level up in time and get some points for the season, that could be fun to put that in there just to compare how our version of Andy Schleck does in his first pro season to how the real life Andy Schleck did in that race in his first pro season. So I'm not sure if we'll level up in time to make that happen, but that's something to keep an eye on for sure. And I think that's about everything I wanted to cover before the racing, so we're just going to go ahead and get right into our first race, which of course is the gravel and tar race in New Zealand. Alright, so we are now into our very first race of Andy Schleck's career, and our team wants us to go into the breakaway and try and last at least 90 kilometers out in the break. So we're going to try and do that. Sometimes in this game it's a little bit difficult to get into the breakaway, especially if you're just starting and don't have very good secondary stats, but we're going to try and we're going to see what happens. See if we can get into the breakaway and get some XP in our very first race. So you can already kind of tell Andy Schleck's a bigger guy as far as GC contenders go. He was really tall. I think he was over 6 feet.
There's a breakaway in the leading group.
The American system. So we've gone on the attack. Got a couple other riders going with us, which is good to see. And the gap is already at about a minute, which I think may mean that the peloton is going to let us go, which would be great. Although there's a couple riders, you can see there's a few riders trying to bridge across, which might trigger the peloton into chasing. We'll have to wait and see.
Things are heating up in front.
Looks like one of our teammates is in there, which is kind of annoying.
There's now more than a minute between them.
But yeah, they have a pretty good gap too, actually. So I think we might be allowed to stay off the front and go in the break. Let's see who else is in the breakaway with us. Nobody who I know. An American, one guy from New Zealand, and a couple Australian riders. Alright. Excuse me. That second group has over a minute on the peloton, so I think we're probably gonna come together here, which means I will lower my effort a little bit so that I'm not pointlessly riding away from another group that's just gonna link up and help us.
The pack is increasing its work rate. Some teams can't be happy with the breakaway.
The one tricky thing is that, alright, now the other riders have figured out what I'm talking about and are not riding very hard. So, to actually get these 90 kilometers for the breakaway objective, I have to be in the very first group on the road. So, just being in a group off the front isn't enough, which is a little annoying sometimes, because with the new aggressive AI for this game, the riders like to sometimes attack from the breakaway, and you kind of have to chase down every move.
The gap is widening. It's now more than 2 minutes.
Or else you don't get credit for actually being in the breakaway. But now that we've linked up with this second group on the road, I'm gonna jump ahead a few kilometers in the race, and we'll see at what point things start to get interesting. Okay, so we've now completed 50% of the breakaway objective. We've gotten 45 kilometers in the break. We still have over 2 minutes advantage on the peloton, so things are going pretty well from that point of view. The group itself is cooperating pretty well. No one is... There are enough... I was going to say no one is skipping turns, but that's not true. There's enough people rolling through and taking turns that everything is working pretty harmoniously so far. So that's good. Obviously, we want everyone to stay together and work together as long as possible into the race so we can pick up as many kilometers as we can to go towards the objective that our team set with us. We have one teammate in the group, Conter, another Luxembourger. Not familiar with him currently, but I'm sure we'll get to know him as we play through this season. He is one of the riders working, so that's good. Sometimes in Pro Cyclist mode, if you're in the breakaway with your teammate, they'll just kind of sit on and let you do the work, but that's not what's happening this time, so that's good. And in terms of this race, it's a pretty interesting one. There's a decent amount of sort of up and down undulation. There's a couple gravel sectors too, although I know in Strada Bianca in the World Database, I think the gravel sectors are
a couple of teams have set themselves up as pacemakers for the pack.
They're the equivalent of 1-star cobblestone sectors, so they have an impact on the race. But in this race, the gravel sectors are kind of just in there for the aesthetics. So yeah, it's more or less a flat race that's probably going to end in a sprint, but we're going to keep on going in the breakaway here, and hopefully we can get to 90 kilometers. Alright, so we're on one of these gravel sectors at the moment. A few riders are getting dropped from the breakaway right now. It's been really hilly the past few kilometers, and the chase is starting to begin in earnest. So the peloton is picking things up. As a result, we're picking things up.
This is the last third of the race.
And we're down to 10 riders in the breakaway now. So you can see 4 kilometers away from reaching that 90k goal, which is excellent. I think I'm not exactly sure what the math is, but if you exceed the goal they set for you by a certain amount, then you can get extra XP points. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. I think it might be like an additional third or something. I'm not positive. But so our gap to the peloton is just a bit. Oh, there we go. Breakaway objective 100%. Great. So our gap to the peloton right now is just a bit over a minute, which in this game is not particularly a lot.
The breakaway is not to everybody's liking. The peloton has significantly increased its speed.
Yes, they have significantly increased its speed. We're probably going to get caught before too long, but I would say it's been a good day out. We hit the goal that the team set for us. And I believe also we'll get not just points for the team objective, but because this is our first breakaway, we're going to get some additional points. So this will be a good first race for us in terms of leveling up and improving Andy Schleck's stats. I'm kind of expecting moves to start going off the front of this group
lead over the pack
pretty
is
soon.
Dwindling. The pace is really hot, so for the moment we shouldn't see too many attacks.
Still a very sizable group, which the AI doesn't always like once you get towards the end of the race. It looks like our teammate Conter is pretty much out of energy, so thanks to him for the work he's done, but he might not be useful for too much longer. And the gap is continuing to fall down to around 40 seconds now. I've still got a lot of energy, so I might even try and make a move here if there we go, follow the attack.
Their front group is disorganized, and some riders are exploiting this opportunity to attack.
And now we're in a group of 4. Perfect. This guy, Brunner, is riding hard. We got Bowden and Berwick. Seb Berwick, I know him. He's a talented young Australian rider. And things are all back together, and we have just under 30 seconds. So yeah, this is going to come back together soon. There's another move. Might as well follow it. I mean, I'm not gonna be sprinting for the win here, so I might as well just try and stay out there and use up all my energy to be in the breakaway as long as possible. And we are now inside the final 20 kilometers. We got some pretty significant crosswinds, so that might have helped the group split up a little bit there.
We've got 15 kilometers to the finish line. Some team managers mustn't appreciate the fact that there is a breakaway,
this is probably the
given that the pack has increased its speed.
Final gravel sector. Things are back together again with the breakaway.
Those guys up front aren't going to be making too many friends today.
I'll try one last time. Why not?
Escape group. There's an attack in the leading group. Some riders were not giving it their all and sharing the pace.
So I'm the last man out from the breakaway.
10 kilometers remaining.
Gonna use my energy gel. And there we go. I've been caught. So I'm just gonna sit up and
the teammates of the main sprinters are not
hang in the
out
group for the finish.
Breakaway, so the stage will end up in a mass sprint.
I would say that was a pretty successful first race overall. In the end, we were in the breakaway for 119 kilometers, so I would think that would be enough to not only fulfill the team objective, but get those extra points.
5 kilometers
yeah,
remaining.
I think that's a pretty good first day out in the professional ranks. Now we just have to see who ends up winning this. I'm not sure. It seems like every one of our teammates is either dropped or pretty much out of energy, so I don't know if we have anyone who's going to be sprinting for this, but we'll see.
And there goes the mad burst for the final sprint.
There we go. Campos of W52, it looks like, is going to take the win.
Nobody can dispute that
Francisco
win.
Campos.
It was very well deserved.
And we should finish maybe in the top 30 or so, 30 or 40. 31st.
Run,
all right,
but the poor souls
that's
up
pretty
the rear
solid
continue
for
to cross
the
line. It's a bit of a knock for the morale.
The first professional race.
Now for the best moments of the day.
Yeah, there we go. All right, one of my teammates finished ahead of me, Miguel Heidemann, German time trialist. Everyone else, I think we were the only 2 who finished in the front group, so that's solid. Yeah. Let's go ahead and see about the XP that we earned for that. First race finished in Continental gives us 10 points. That's great. They gave us 5 points. We did get the exceptional evaluation, so that's good, but only 5 points. So we didn't level up or anything, but it's a good start. Alright, so we have left the month of January and moved into February, which means we get our monthly 50 points, which is enough to level us up. So we're going to be able to use our first upgrade here. We're going to get a skill point and a choice between improvement of attributes or potential. For the first one, I think I'm probably going to go with attributes depending on what they give me. But first, let's just take a look at what upgrading our stage racing potential would actually do. So it would increase the time trial potential to 71 to 75. I said probably somewhere between 70 and 73, so that would be good. Prologue going up as well, not as important for Andy Schleck, I think, for his rider build. The cobblestones doesn't really matter, and the recovery would go up 1, so that's a nice little boost. But yeah, that is not how I'm going to use my first upgrade. So if we upgraded Climber, our mountain rating would be up to 71, which is pretty decent. Let's see if that would be similar with stage racing. It would, and the time trial and prologue would also be better, but if we did stage racing, we would then miss out on the acceleration and downhill. Let's look at the secondary stats. So with stage racing, we'd have 58, 59, 58. Climber, we would also have 58, 59, 58. Let's take a look at puncher. It's pretty similar to climber. It would give me 1 more on the flat, 1 less on the downhill. I'm gonna start off, I think, staying true to my primary access as a climber and upgrade or pick the climbing specialization to upgrade upon. So that will get our mountain rating up into the 70s, which is excellent. And then in terms of skill points, the way I like to do it is to start off by maxing out this attentiveness thing, so just to increase the amount of XP that we get each month, because then that helps us level up and improve more. So that's what I'm going to do to start with, and my first 3 upgrades I will spend on this attentiveness skill, I guess. And looking ahead to the next races that we have, the next race is the GP Manavgat. Looks like a race in Turkey. It's another one that's definitely not for us to win. Maybe they'll send us in the breakaway again. Maybe they'll have us work on the front of the peloton. But we're going to simulate ahead to that and find out what they want us to do. All right, we are back in our second race, the GP Manavgat. I forgot to turn off the commentary volume before the last race, so I've done that now. Hopefully that, I think that will sound better. So for the race today, we've been assigned the role of teammate, and we are supposed to work at the front of the group for 15 kilometers at least with another teammate in the group. So I'm already seeing that we have 3 riders on our team who are going to be trying to get into the breakaway, which makes our instruction a little bit counterintuitive, but that's how it goes sometimes. We might just have to wait until the breakaway forms if one of our riders is in it, and then try and set a nice easy tempo at the front to avoid chasing them down. But 15 kilometers to ride at the front isn't too bad at all. So that should be pretty doable, and once again we're going to be trying to ride the little bit of extra distance required to get the exceptional evaluation. So we're at the front now. We're gonna relay, and I'm gonna decrease my effort a little bit. I usually like to try and see how low I can put my effort on before I get past. I think 55 will be good to not actually chase down my teammate in the break, but of course the other teams aren't happy with that, and they're gonna want to chase a bit harder than that if they missed out on the breakaway. Then the other problem you have is that more riders are going to be attacking. I remember in past editions of this game, the last version of this game actually that I played before 2020 was 2016, and it was just so much easier to get into the breakaway and establish the breakaway in the 2016 game. I think there's some there's some situations in this game that the aggressive AI works really well. Like, for example, one-day classics races like Liège-Bastogne-Liège or Paris-Roubaix. In the past, without the aggressive AI, they would often end with much bigger groups than you would see in real life because people just wouldn't attack throughout the course of the race. So in this year's game, I think the AI has been a big improvement in situations like that. With Paris-Roubaix and races like that, you get really exciting races where riders are attacking all throughout the race. But just on like day-to-day in a stage race, I think it's a little bit much in terms of especially the breakaway. Like, the breakaway usually doesn't get chased down halfway through a stage race. I think there's less freedom. Like, especially in the past, if I was playing a career mode, even if I wasn't in contention for the win, I knew that I could send a rider or two into the breakaway and try and do something that way. But it's just a lot harder this year to do that. So it'll be interesting to see what approach they take next year and whether they sort of dial it back or double down and continue with the aggressive AI. But we've almost completed the 15 kilometers that we need to ride at the front here. I think we were 75% at that last pop-up. I didn't really read it, but once we get to, I'm going to do a little bit extra. There we go, 100%. So I'm going to do maybe 10 kilometers extra just to be safe, to make sure I get as many points as possible. Although of course they've picked right now to up the pace a little bit. There are only 80 kilometers left in this race, so I guess they gotta start chasing the teams with sprinters. But that makes it harder for me to get the exceptional evaluation. There we go. I'll stick it on 70 for now. I think that should be enough to stay at the front. But it's also not riding hard enough that I'm gonna completely eliminate the gap that the breakaway has with my teammate in it. And it was not quite enough to stay at the front. Yeah, let's see if we can't get a few more kilometers. I always feel bad riding at the front when my breakaway or my teammate is in the breakaway, but gotta get the XP to level up as quickly as possible. Alright, there we go. That's an extra 10. I think that should be more than enough. So now I'm gonna speed things up and I will rejoin you right at the end. Okay, so we're inside the final 20 kilometers now. The peloton actually split up a fair amount over these little climbs. So we're in a group of 87 riders. There's one rider off the front who just attacked. I am completely out of energy. Both my teammates who are still in the peloton are also pretty much completely out of energy. So I'm starting to realize so far that our team is on the weaker side, which is okay. It is our first season after all. The one thing that might mean is that on the races sort of later on in the season, some of those climbing races, it might just mean that we don't have very much support. But depending on how quickly we're able to level up and improve our ratings, that might not really be an issue. So I'm just gonna sit here and hopefully cross the line with the peloton. We'll see whether or not these guys trying to get away are able to do so, or if the sprinters can bring it back and contest the win. So this right here, I feel like, is where the aggressive AI works really well. Like in the closing kilometers of the race, you get some chaos with riders trying to break away. I just wish there was a way for them to have it so they kept this stuff with late attacks to try and win the race, but then eased off a little bit at the start of the race to make it easier to get in the breakaway and establish the breakaway. Because once a breakaway is established and has a minute advantage, more riders aren't usually going to attack to try and bridge across. It just complicates things. So here's the sprint. It's a bit of a technical one here with that right-hander. Stanislaw Anielewski wins the race. Polish rider. 3 Polish riders in the top 4, so good day for them. And yeah, another top 40 finish for Andy Schleck in his second professional race. So that's not too bad. We had a teammate finish 14th, which is decent. We'll see whether or not that's a good enough finish to grab us some additional points. Sometimes if you have a teammate positioned really well, when you're in the teammate role, you get extra points because of it. Not sure if 14th is good enough. Alright, we got that exceptional rating, plus 10. That's great. Our manager satisfaction is good. I'm not actually too sure what that does, to be honest with you. But we're improving it. And we've leveled up. Teammate requests we can't do. So I forgot when we leveled up, it only gave us 5 points, which is enough to add the circuit to Ardennes. So I'm gonna add that to the calendar. It'll be interesting, like I said, to compare our results to real life Andy Schleck's results in that race. And then I guess if we're able to level up again, I might get rid of some of these other races in here, because I don't want to have too many races in this first season. I want to have enough to be able to level up, obviously, but the more exciting races will take place in future seasons for sure. I think that's gonna be it for the first episode with racing in it. So we did gravel and tar, and then the GP Man of Gut. We got our first ever level up, upgraded our climbing. I'd say we're pretty nicely on the right track. So next time we'll have a little bit of a hilly race here in the Grand Prix Alana, and then our third Turkish race in a row, Grand Prix Gazipaşa. Probably not one for us. And then once we've done those two, we will also have our first objective of the season, the Tour des Alpes Maritimes et du Var, which this particularly stage 3 looks kind of promising with that uphill finish. That might be something that we could shoot for our first professional top 10, I think, or something like that. Yeah, I think that will be what we'll cover in the next episode. So until then, thanks for tuning in. As always, if you liked the video idea, feel free to drop a like or a subscription. If you think there's anything that I missed with regards to leveling up or scheduling or anything, feel free to leave a comment, and I will take that into account. But yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you next time.